Please
Yes, we
start.
can hear you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Najeeb Rangwala. First of all, I'm thankful for Allah for giving me this opportunity, and everybody can recite the Sharif. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. I know different people have joined in from different areas of the world. I really appreciate your time, taking time off. And I know Ramzan is going on, but taking time and listening is very nice of you to learn. And my job is to teach as much possible I can. Wallahu alam, Allah knows the best, but I will do my best to give all I know to you, and it's all up to you to go from here onwards. So, briefly, I can tell about myself. So, I'm in the Semantic Brain and Behavior company, which teaches psychiatry, as well as at some places where they need to know about Islam. I teach them with that psychiatry and Islam together. Correct. So that's what we are doing it. In the On this topic of high self-esteem in faith. I started this topic almost 6 weeks ago with a first presentation, which is self-esteem from psychology and Islam, which was the basic understanding. I was trying to make them understand there's a difference in self-esteem if you're comparing Islam versus psychology. So you have to have a better understanding from both because there's a confusion. Right. The biggest question which comes up to, and this is it, that we have we have not acquired the correct definition, the correct meaning, and all those things. So we struggle on that. So that's why I explain that thing. What are the difference? And if you learn the differences and understand the meaning from it and take advantage of it, are better off to know where you are. Correct. The second one was role of qalb, ruh, and nafs, which is a very important part of self-esteem. The goal of these presentations is increase your self-esteem, correct? And knowing the qalb, nafs, and ruh relationship is very important to know that, because that's where it's also hinders us to go and for not achieving high self-esteem. So we went into that detail. It's a 30-minute presentation with 1 hour of discussion, followed by a dynamic paradigm of soul in high self-esteem in faith. So where I put a lot of things together, what type of different type of nafses are, and the qalb and the psychiatry concept, and that's helped. So basically, at the time also they asked about reward and punishment phenomena, which was a very interesting question. And I'm thankful for that person who asked this question. So I had to incorporate that thing. And this today presentation will be a brief one, but it's more focused on answering your questions. So today will be neuroadaptive paradigm of our soul and high self-esteem in faith. So the first question I will ask you, and this is what you have to ponder on, that Quran came 1400 years ago. We have a seerah and all those things, correct? But why do we have low self-esteem? Means Allah forgive you. You pray 5 times, you do all the good thing, and you ask forgiveness from Allah, and Allah is there for you and listening to you. So why you have low self-esteem? That is one question you need to answer before you go 6 feet under. Because if you don't have this answer, I'm sorry, you missed the time period and you're not coming back. So you need to understand this concept. There are people who have read Quran hundreds of times, but they have low self-esteem. So why they do have low self-esteem? They need to ponder on that. And so, as Allah said, Rabbi Zidni ilma, correct? Increase your knowledge. If you increase the knowledge, your iman will come up because you have fitra, correct? You have the blueprint Allah has given you, correct? Allah has given you everything. You have to look into yourself to find out your shortcoming to fix it. Like I have to find my shortcoming, which is not similar than yours, which is not similar to anybody else. So it's your due diligence you have to do to push you up, correct? So that question you need to understand very well before we go into it. So let's go to the next slide. Perfect. So these are the things we need to understand. I went into detail, but I add more things on it. So as we know, in the Quran, we have the concept of qalb. And in the concept of qalb, we have three type of qalb, mayyat, marida, and qalb salim, correct? So these are the three type of qalb. Qalb salim is the pure heart. Qalb marida is the sick heart, and then kalbe mayyat is the dead heart, correct? It's mentioned in the Quran. We need to understand that, correct? And then we have also nafs. You know, we have three different type of nafs. A nafse amara, which is the bad one. Nafse lawama, which is the in between one, which is struggling between good and bad. And then nafse mutmainna, which is the good nafs, correct? So this is all mentioned in the Quran. So we have discussed in detail how our intellect or the akal affects your qalb in the previous presentation, correct? Because we know that akal is the intellect going in the right pathway, but it is a Islamic concept. This is the difference between knowledge versus akal, because you have to take a shahada, and you have to, because if you look at the exact meaning from the Fusa, the classical Arabic, akal means a rope leading to right direction, meaning to Allah, correct? So that is akal. So this is different than knowledge, because you have to have a shahada. That's why people, non-Muslims, have translated Quran, but they never understood very well. They are well-spoken people, but they didn't get the concept of Quran, and they are still non-Muslims. So that is the biggest difference between akal and knowledge. Knowledge is of, getting information, and that's it. But akal is more than that. And the wisdom is, as we mentioned, hikmat is higher level for the correct moment, correct way, and the correct purpose. So these are hikmat, correct? So for hikmat, you need akal. Akal does not need hikmat, means hikmat needs akal. So that's very important concept to understand. And then you have alternate thought, biases, fallacies, and cognitive dissonance. So that's the and ego conflicts, which affects your cult, correct? So these are the things you need to understand very well when you consider yourself. Where is your issues? Why you have low self-esteem? What are the factors? You just don't look for one factor. There are multiple factors. When you have diabetes, hypertension, all those diseases, you look not only one thing, you look for multiple things. What are the other things happening? You just don't do one thing. So if you have multiple factors that causing it, you have a better chance of coming out from low self-esteem to high self-esteem. So these are the flow chart I mentioned to you in we can apply, which are in the moment or by a person which they look. And also the question of reward and punishment, and as well as classical conditioning, that is also a psychology concept I need to explain, because reward and punishment makes a huge difference, correct? Let's go to the next slide. This is a slide you need to ponder on. So how reward and punishment affect, and on the right side you have, it's happening in your brain. Your conscious and unconscious mind is there, and on the left side you have knowledge. It could be good or bad, or it could be evil genius, correct? With or without faith, that is, we are talking about faith without Islam, correct? So people, and then the effect. So I will come back on this slide, and this is my summary slide, so at least you're aware of it. And then we will go into reward and punishment phenomena, which was not discussed, and that needs to be discussed. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I will go quickly, because these are conditions which we didn't discuss, but it's important because it's in your mind happening. Everybody is going through it, correct? So we have classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is at your unconscious mind. We talk about what is unconscious mind. So it's involuntary. It's produced by triggering conditions. So if something triggers you, you will have immediate reaction. That's called classical condition. So it's modified by antecedent. So you remove the triggering condition, and the classical condition does not happen. Pavlov dog or pairing phenomena is how it happened in classical conditioning. Let's go to the next slide, which explain to you. So this is classical conditioning. So it's from taken from psychology from Margaret Maitland. So anyhow, in classical condition, you need to understand what is a classical condition. So you have an unconditioned stimulus like door slamming, and you have a startle response, correct? Then you have another condition while you have wind chiming and no response, correct? These are two different times, two different things happening, and that was your response. So in the second phase, when you have both of them together at the same time, you get startled. So now you have the door slamming and a wind chime at the same time, and you start getting startled. That's the second phase. So what's the third phase is? They take away, uh, they take away the door slamming, and now it's a wind chime. So when you have a wind chime, when you got used to of the second phase, the third phase is when you have a wind chime, you get a startle response. So your brain absorb that information which was before was not there. And that is in the unconscious mind. A typical example is PTSD and other. There are a lot of examples that happens in your brain at unconscious level, and you get surprised why I'm doing it. When I slam, wind chiming causes me startle. Why is that so? Because of this classical conditioning, and it affects your unconscious mind. So a lot of behaviors which you do also are based on classical conditioning. Correct. So at least you need to know where it is and where it's going to affect in your brain. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. So the operant condition is another one where it is your conscious mind or voluntary behavior take place. It's modified by consequences, and reward or reinforcement and punishment is the phenomena. So we talk about reward and punishment, correct? How it modify your qalb and the nerves, correct? We are totally driven by reward and punishment, correct? And that is what I like to bring it up, that how reward and punishment affects that. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So now you understand, before you understand reward and punishment, you have to understand the hormones in your body and the factor which hormone produce empathy and fear before we go into reward and punishment, correct? So if you look at there are hormone called oxytocin and vasopressin. These are very similar compound, 9 amino acid compounds, which only 2 amino acid difference, but they work differently. They have a bonding. So oxytocin causes bonding, trust, and empathy, correct? And vasopressin causes aggression and fear. They are all produced by the brain, correct? Some of the oxytocin is also produced in the heart, but majority of the oxytocin is produced by the hypothalamus, correct? And that spreads out throughout the system, correct? And it causes the bonding, trust, empathy, correct? Along with you have a cortisol, which is flight or fright response, or epinephrine and norepinephrine from fear and stress. They are produced by the adrenal. So if you see that, they are all coming from the brain, correct? Means some of it also does comes from the heart, but majority of them is coming from the brain, from the stimulus they get, correct? And then it acts on different areas of the body. So one is the brain, second is the heart, and blood vessel and other organs, correct? Let's go to the next slide. This is what explaining where are the receptors and where are the different organelles where it affects. So this is for the oxytocin and different receptors and all those things. So oxytocin receptors are in the brain as well as in the heart and blood vessels. So that is very important to understand. So your empathy and trust is by oxytocin. It is also compounded by cortisol and norepinephrine and epinephrine. So these all works together in a same way. But it is a very complex phenomena. So let's go to the next slide explaining that. This is a simple pathway how oxytocin is produced. This is happening in the brain. It's a simple pathway of showing that. They're just giving you idea how it is, correct? So basically, to produce oxytocin, you have to have a dopamine, a glutamate, and GABA, correct? They are interaction with each of them, producing later on oxytocin, which is a so dopamine is a pleasure pathway. Glutamate is aggressive and pleasure pathway, correct? And GABA is inhibitory pathway. So there are numerous neurotransmitter produced to produce oxytocin. It's not just one produce oxytocin. So keep in mind there is a whole pathway in the brain to produce that. This is just a network of easy showing that how it's produced in the brain. Let's go to the next slide. Now, this is where you need to understand. So, where the red one is VTA, ventral tegmental nucleus, this is in your brainstem. Then the blue area, which is actually nucleus accumbens. Okay, so this is the reward center. So, VTA, where the dopamine is released, this is the track called mesolimbic pathway, stimulate the reward center is in the limbic area and you feel better, and then it's also connected to frontal lobe, correct? Now you have amygdala sitting here. This also, the red ones also send the dopamine by mesolimbic pathway to the fear pathway of amygdala. So you see the difference. Both are there, both are produced by the dopamine. One causes uh, reward and other causes fear, correct? Both are from the same dopamine pathway. And it's a huge network in the brain which is causes that. I just you have an idea how the neuroscience has evolved, and we have figured out all the pathways and all those things. It's not just one thing, it's a cascade of event which happens. So at least you have an idea and you can refer from this journal so you can understand much better, correct? Let's go to another slide. So this is how in the brain is. VTA, ventral tegmental nucleus, which is in the brain stem, sending upward the track, which is a mesolimbic one, to the nucleus accumbens, which is a reward center. This is a whole area above nucleus accumbens is all the reward center is, and then it goes also to the frontal lobe. So this is how the reward center is. So, and then on the right side is nucleus accumbens getting excited when you have a reward phenomena. So we have captured this in different type of scanning, that how somebody who get reward from cocaine and all those things, where the center gets stimulated in the brain. So at least you have an idea how it works in the brain. There's a whole cascade of event taking place. So you have a reward center and you have a punishment center coming from the same track of the dopamine, which is excited, which is not excited. So at least you have an idea. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, this pathway tells you how it works. So you have a reward and punishment going on. One is amygdala, which is the fear pathway, and then nucleus accumbens, which is the reward ones, correct? So from the hypothalamus and all those things, the meso VTA, which is ventral tegmental area, this is where it goes to the reward. And so excited reward, as well as there's another track, which is a long track, goes to the prefrontal cortex, where your thinking take place, correct? And when this thinking take place, it sends back to again to the amygdala and all those things. So and the little center to tell the brain how it works. It means you're exciting, you're enjoying it, or you have a punishment phenomena, so the frontal lobe knows about it. So this is where common, which there's a hadith about also there, that when you're angry, have lie down, and if you're still angry, first, if you're angry, have a seat, and if you're still angry, lie down. So this is the same when neuropsychiatry goes into it, explain the same phenomena, that you have a short track which affects the limbic area. When you have a limbic area excited, you have an immediate response. So you need to give more time so the frontal lobe kicks in and give impulse, and it goes back and calms you down. So do you understand this hadith, which was 1400 years ago given by Huzur Sallallahu, and the neuropsychiatry in the last 20 years have figured out the tracks for that, that how it works, correct? Same thing, phenomena in different areas of emotion take place. And this is a very good slide to explain that. So I just want you to be aware that neuropsychiatry is catching about Islam, what they're talking about, and in a pathway form, correct? So this is in the brain happening. Tons of literature has been searched and looked up and completely documented. So it's good to know that the hadith, which was given 1400 years ago, is, so we know the pathways now. Okay, so at least you have idea. Let's go to another slide. These are just an explanation of the dopamine pathway. We have, in fact, four is mentioned over here, but we have still five of them, and the dopamine receptors where they're located and all those. So just have idea if you want to learn more about it. Let's go to the next slide. So this is where the amygdala is, correct? So when you have a fear voice with a fear face, look at how much high level of amygdala gets stimulated. So it tells you when you have a fearful voice with a fearful place, amygdala get extremely excited, and you have a fear factor going on. As compared to the lowest one, which is happy voice with happy face, you have the lowest response at the bottom. So you can see that response over here generated by different faces and voice document that. And on the right side showing the amygdala and the pathway. From the amygdala, it loops around and goes to the, with the vagus nerve, goes to the heart and stimulates the heart. So when you are afraid, amygdala gets stimulated from the vision or from the hearing. It sends the pathway to the brainstem, to the vagus nuclei in the brainstem, and from the brainstem goes to the heart. So there is a huge connection. Vagus is a huge cranial nerve, starting from the brain to the transverse colon of the. So it's a huge nerve which supplies a lot of areas of the human body. Correct. So at least you have an idea how much brain contribute to throughout the body. Okay, so let's go to the slides. Let me go back to the main slide because this is what we want to do. This is slide number 19. Yes, thank you very much. So now put all this thing together. When you have a fear factor, which we talk about it on the right, it does affects your akal intelligence, correct? So as the reward phenomena, correct? But it get corrected by the hikmat and the akal, correct? And it redirect your qalb to a direction of qalb salim because it has a strong influence from the ruh. If the ruh is strong, it affects the qalb to qalb salim. And if your nafs is weaker, then it will go to nafs mutmainna. Correct? So this is the pathway you need to understand is running in your system, correct? If your nafs is nafs amara and it has a strong influence on your qalb and the ruh is weak because ruh is there but it has less influence on the qalb, then the qalb become qalb mayyat or dead qalb, which is mentioned in the Quran. So when the dead qalb, which is mentioned in the Quran, that the qalb is like a black, it has a veil on it, and it just follows your nafs. That's why you nafs controlling your qalb, correct? So your akal or hikmat is not helping because the nafs is so strong of the amara that it's not taking any impulse or any input from the ruh concept. And your akal is also not contributing to it, correct? The hikmat is gone. And there is huge ego conflict on the left side. You have knowledge, which is a worse one, evil, and you can be means you can be a genius, correct? So you may have significant biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance sitting there at the unconscious level, correct? And that is one of the reason we don't rest when we read Quran because we have our own internal conflicts sitting there. Reading Quran, you have to understand Quran. Even if you understand Quran, you have to understand the logic behind the Quran, correct? If you understand the logic and the context behind the Quran, you can auto correct yourself. You can correct your ego conflicts, you can correct your lot of things and remove your biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, and you will have alternate thoughts, positive thoughts, correct? That will makes a huge life difference in you to improve your self-esteem, right? This is where the huge concept of self-esteem comes, because we read Quran for so many years. You may be 20 years old or 40 or 60 years old. So the question is why your self-esteem has not come out of it, or why your self-esteem goes down, because of these factors, not one. So Allah will help you when you find yourself your shortcoming, correct? Just relying on Quran and that's it, and do whatever you want to do is not going to help you. As you can see, reading Quran will help you, but it's also depends on you how much you're going to move forward to understand Quran. As there was Surah Jummah is was mentioned, uh, uh, which is Surah Jummah, is the chapter 62, ayat number 5, to Bani Israel, that they are example where uh, actually they are actually they are just like a donkey carrying the book, don't know what is in the book. I'm paraphrasing it. So they were talking about Allah Ta'ala is talking about Bani Israel, that they are just like a donkey carrying the book on the back, not knowing what's in the book. So we are like that, because Allah is talking to, referring to Bani Israel, that you are just like a donkey. So it's very condescending. In our lifetime, Allah is telling you that you just read a book and not understanding, you're just like a donkey, correct? So we need to move out of this phase. We may be how many years old, but it's time to move out of it. Have a good understanding from Quran and Sirah. Find good people who can influence you too, but you need to do your work, correct? I don't want to take much time. If you have any questions, we can go ahead based on this flow chart. Thank you very much for coming also. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It's lovely, and the analogies that you have, the parallels that you have drawn, they make us understand lots of things pretty much clearly. Jazakallah khairan kaseera for that. My first question is, so if there is a person who is struggling to do this paradigm shift. So, for example, initially he was a person of nafs ammara, where the nafs is more heavier, or the nafs is more dominant on the body compared to the ruh, and now that person is developing knowledge, trying to develop his intellect around the teachings of Quran and Sunnah. Now he has developed this knowledge, but then there's ego conflict, that he has developed this knowledge but he is unable to bring that knowledge into practical applications into his life. So what are the suggestions or conditioning that a person can do to reduce that ego conflict, and to bring his self-esteem higher by practically implementing that knowledge in his life? What
That's a
conditionings are required?
Yes, that's a very good question. I really appreciate for asking that question. Okay. Before I answer, I also answer that some of the people thought that this is a very high level of talk, which I'm giving. And then I have already explained this talk to a ninth grade student who's 14 years old. And she said it's a basic concept. Why people are saying it's a high level concept in Texas, correct? So I'm just want to let you know this is one of the phenomena I'm seeing, that when this is given, they run away that it's too complicated. And I looked up, when a ninth grade student can understand this flow chart, you may be 30, 40, 50 years on and you're looking, it's too complicated. I think so that is your ego conflict coming, correct? You don't want to learn things, so you say it's too complicated, but I will use the iPhone, I will use everything in the world, I will do everything for the what I need to do to earn money and all the fame, But this one, too difficult. So this is how we have the issue. So say coming back to the same question of yours, people in everybody has biases, fallacies, and cognitive lesson. Even if you have ilm or knowledge, now first of all we have to know whether this person has taken shahada or not. Okay? Because somebody who has not taken shahada will have knowledge. Okay? But there are a lot of people who have not accepted Quran, accepted Islam. They just have knowledge. But once you accept Quran, Islam, then you have akal because you are striving to get better in the
Mm.
that's why Allah says akal, correct, going towards direction of the God, correct, towards Allah. That is akal. As compared to knowledge, knowledge is anybody can have. So that's fine. So Allah will help you if you have a shahada in going. If you're non-Muslim, Allah will still help you if you're striving for it. If you don't want to, Allah will say enjoy your life. Correct? Allah is giving you this whole life free of time. We don't understand our every second is a luxury. Every second is a luxury. Quran says that you will ask on the day of judgment, can you give us life back the third time? They mentioned the third time. We want every second back because we are in trouble. This is what mentioned in Quran. So Allah has told you your situation will be very worse when you come to. So we take it for granted, everything. That,
Mm.
hey, enjoy life, whatever, and ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness, Allah is there for forgiveness. But I ask the same question. If Allah has forgiven you so many times, why your self-esteem has gone down? Allah is forgiving you every time, but you are not correcting your own basis, your biases, fallacies, cognitive. So we have to look into our biases, fallacies. We have a lot of biases. Means somebody has different, I have different, you have different. So we need to correct. So remove the ego conflict. When you remove the ego conflict, then you go on the right side of this pathway, on this flow chart. When you have removed the ego conflict, removed biases, fallacies, cognitive dissonance, then your mind is clear at the unconscious level. As I mentioned to you before, we have 60 to 80% information coming from unconscious mind, which we don't know it's coming. So first we have to register what is our unconscious mind. Once we find out these are the things coming from unconscious mind, then you can fix it because we are fixing the conscious mind, and which is 20 to 30%. So these are very important questions which you ask, that we have to look into our unconscious mind. What are our conflicts going on and how I'm going to fix it? Allah is there to fix you. And then we use means it will help you, your akal and the hikmat comes in, correct? When you have akal, Allah will give you hikmat. As you going to strive for it, Allah will give you hikmat, correct? Allah is not stopping hikmat from you. Allah has said, you work, I will give you. So there is the way for us. And if you have hikmat, you will have high self-esteem. If you have akal, you will have high self-esteem. So the goal is to get akal as much as possible and get hikmat. And the only way you can get is to follow the Quran and the Sirah by yourself. And then look at means learn from it and follow it. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Can I ask another question? If somebody else is waiting, they can. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, you did answer my question. Sorry, I was talking and I was mute. Yes, thank you very much. You did answer my question.
You have somebody
I
else,
think
Achi.
Ajmal, if you can ask the question. Ajmal, you can unmute.
Thank you very much. My question is about the right and wrong. Basically, this is the very good presentation. Uh, I want to know that cognitive versus spiritual alignment. How does the narrow adaptive paradigm of the soul influence one's ability to distinguish between genuine faith-based self-esteem and uh, ego-driven ignorance?
So
And
where are you getting all this from? Where you're extracting this from?
yes, I am from Pakistan, And
The information you're giving is what's the theory behind which you are saying that. I just need to hear from that so I can think that way.
because there is some knowledge, we don't have much knowledge about the topic you are. Um, Sometimes I listen, I read the at the end of the presentation of your presentation. I don't recall all the present. I could not involve in this, so I don't understand whole concept of this recognition. So I want to know how someone who have not much knowledge about the balance of this narrow scientific base of faith, and how he can understand right and wrong without any
Okay.
knowledge.
So without any knowledge, first of all, you have to see whether Allah exists or not, correct? That's the
Yes,
first thing, correct? You have
yes,
to have a faith, correct? Faith cannot be
yes,
seen. It has to be observed and learned and appreciated, correct? Allah, you cannot see Allah, correct? Yes or no, correct? You cannot see, but you can see in the nature the presence of Allah. You can see the presence of Allah in you. How your cardiac system is working, how your endocrine system is working, how perfectly it's working, how your system and healthy system of yours and all the millions people healthy system are working. So you see the evidence of God or Allah. Means it's up to you which one you want to pick, correct? So first you have to
yes,
have a shahada, correct? When you have a shahada and you learn the Quran and the Sirah, it opens up your mind. You have to have the first step correct. If your first step is incorrect, like there are a lot of non-Muslims who have written Quran in a very detailed manner, but they are still non-Muslim and they still struggle with a lot of concept. Now there are Muslims who understand this concept and Allah give them hikmat. So then they understand the whole concept. So you have to drive the akal from the faith, correct? As compared to ilm without a faith. That's the difference. So that's a good question. And once you have the Islamic faith and the akal, which is intellect going towards righteous direction, Allah will give you hikmat. When Allah give you hikmat, everything opens up. Look at Luqman Hakim. If you look at the Surah Luqman, where was Luqman Hakim was? He was in the forest. Allah given him the hikmat. Why? Because he was searching for it. There was no university or colleges over there at that time, correct? He was surrounded by nature, but he was striving to get it. Why during the time of Huzur, some people were striving for all the iman and akal? Because they know what is right and what is wrong. They were not in a good situation in Arabia at that time. They were drinking, doing all the bad things, correct? But they moved from the lowest nation to the highest nation who conquer Persia and Roman Empire almost at the same time, correct? So this is the basis of you. Allah has given you fitra. If you search for it, Allah will give you more. But if you're doubting Allah, then that's the first step you have taken wrong, correct? So you need to correct the first step and go in that direction. Read Quran with proper understanding and the Sirah and understand them. Then you will open up the whole concept. It will open up to you. That will be my suggestion to you. But yeah, did it make sense to you?
Yes, but there is many concepts floating around the world. Uh, you know, um, which we cannot drive. I think from uh, it's mine, maybe lack of knowledge or wisdom.
So let's move on to akal concept, correct?
And floating concepts like you can say that when an individual lacks knowledge and wisdom, and they cannot understand many things in this latest world, when someone cannot decide which one is right and wrong. Like I have a very common question. I can say that sometimes I have the question about cryptocurrencies or some is it right or wrong. They there are many
Let's
confusing.
go to the basic concepts.
Yeah,
I'm not going to the cryptocurrency right now.
I mean, sood, matlab riba, and that's like
Yeah,
kind of
that's fine.
thing.
Let's work on the first shahada, correct?
Mm,
Let's do that, correct? Have a proper shahada and have a proper understanding of the Quran. Once you don't understand the real meaning of the Quran and the depth of Quran, it will be difficult to go higher, correct? Then it's difficult. Why the Muslims were able to capture Romans and the Persians at the same time? Because they got the concept right,
yes.
black and white. And you have the luxury of time, sir. I'm telling you. I have the luxury, but I understand my shortcoming. Every second of my life is coming down and I cannot get it back. I can guarantee you about you too. So you can play this game or do whatever you want, but it's high time to do it. Because you can be get confused. Hey, I didn't know. Allah said, Allah will tell you, I have given you the book. I have given you Sirah. I have given you all the opportunity. Correct? Allah will ask you this question. You cannot say I'm confused. You have the
Yes,
fitrah.
yes, but I think there is a lot of lack of knowledge in our.
So catch up.
Group.
You caught up
Yes.
with our cryptocurrency, correct?
Okay. Many other concepts. This is just one
No,
example.
I'm just telling you in a
Medical
constructive way. I
education,
don't want to, I
medical science.
respect you.
Yes, yes.
No harm feeling. Hey, I'm respecting you. This we all go through it, correct? But look into deeper meaning from the Quran and understand the basic concept, and then build up. Allah will be proud of you, correct?
Thank you so much. Thank you so.
You must welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Najeeb. I have a
Walaikum
question. May
salam.
I ask?
Sure.
Brother Najeeb, I have a question. That is, I think so. This is a kind of concern as well, and this concern is from what I am perceiving is from most of us listening to you. Your presentation was very good, and it has been very good. It is my third and fourth lecture I am listening to you, but I am confused or stuck with the basic definitions and basic phenomena of the terminologies you are using. So I am bringing forward your attention. If you have some data, material, or references, you can share with most of us so that we go through the same material and we analyze or we come to know, we understand the basic concepts and the terminologies so that we connect the thought and idea or the theories you are presenting to us. I think so that will be beneficial for us in a sense that we can get most out of your presentation. Any comment on this? Thank you.
No, I understand what your concern is, okay? But let me tell you, when I teach to the ninth grade student, correct, over here, who are 15 years old, when I show this flow chart and explain all these things, these kids who are in ninth grade in America, think about it, they are in America, got this concept very nicely. How much they got it, I don't know. It's Allah knows best. Whether they got 80%, 70%, 60%, I don't know. But they have enough that they can explain to other people, right? So, so I'm just telling you, if a 15-year-old kid can get it, we all can get it. I'm just telling you, just take away this biases that you cannot get it. There is an easy way. Just spend time, look up from the books and what is being said, and rather than go into major detail about each concept, because if you go into major detail you can get lost. Just go step by step, and if a 15-year-old can understand, anybody can understand, correct? So that is my point. It's
Brother,
Go ahead.
brother Najib, you are very much right. We can understand it very easily, and these are not rocket sciences that we can't learn. But I am asking for your help in a shape of providing some materials or some references so that we can go through them and we can get to the maximum of that phenomena. If you
Okay,
have
so
those references or materials, so then it will be good. We can study them and we can learn from them.
okay, so that's a good question. This flow chart which I have showing you, just make you should remember this flow chart. It will help you a lot, correct? This is your goal is correct, to figure out where are your flaws are, correct? Because these flow chart is coming from the means most of them the terminology is coming from the Quran. And by the way, what I'm saying is not mine. It's by Dr. Israr Ahmad, Maulana Maududi, and there are so many other physicians who have said the same thing in a different way. It's just not mine. It's I'm just knowing the concept of psychiatry and combining it together, so there are so many other people who are saying almost the same thing. I don't know how much they know psychiatry, but since I know psychiatry, I'm combining psychiatry together to make you understand that tomorrow if you talk to somebody else who knows psychiatry, by the way, psychiatry will help you understand this concept. It will make sense to you. So just know this thing and read Quran and the Sirah. Once you read Quran and Sirah, and if you have this flow chart, it will help you. That is my best answer to you.
All, all right,
My
I
question
got
is
it. So
this.
nice of you. Just kindly share the presentation with us so that we can go through it. Thank you so much.
Okay, you have the recording, so you can look into that.
What's the
Yeah.
difference between ilm, aql, and hikmah? And according to Quran, should we work on hikmah or ilm? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا.
Okay, so akal. If you look at the definition of akal from the Quranic concept, the fusa or the Arabic classical Arabic, it's like a rope pulling in a right direction. That is where the context and the meaning is, correct? As compared to ilm, is just a knowledge, correct? So knowledge could be good or bad, but when you have a shahada with the knowledge, you're going towards Allah, correct? So we have a lot of people who have knowledge, but they use knowledge in a bad way. But once you have a shahada, and then Allah will guide your knowledge in a better direction because you have a better understanding. So that's if you look at the flow chart, on the right, it says Islamic faith, correct? On the left, it says faith. Faith could be any faith, correct? Not the Islamic faith, but any faith, or you don't have any faith, correct? Then it's knowledge, means a non Muslim have knowledge, correct? And he can use his knowledge for his benefit. But if he has Shahada, he will go into the other territory of Akal. And then when you have Akal, more self-esteem. The better Akal you have, Allah will give you hikmat. When Allah give you hikmat, you have a higher level of thinking power. So your goal is to get Akal as much as possible. That will help your self-esteem. And if you do further, Allah will give you hikmat. I don't know any person who has hikmat has low self-esteem. Do you know anybody? You look at the Sirah, look at the Huzur Sasam. They all have high self-esteem. So our goal is to get akal as much as possible. That will help our self-esteem. And if we get hikmat from Allah's blessing, you higher you go. Did I make?
And
Go ahead.
and we have only two sources for aql, like Quran and Sunnah, right?
Quran and the Sirah, correct. These are the main source. Yeah, there are a lot of more other sources, but you concentrate on these sources, Quran and the Sirah, correct? Then also you look at the pious people like Momin, correct? This is the third step because you want to associate with the higher people. So human has a tendency to look to higher ground, correct? Living person. So if you find a Momin who is doing excellent, you compete with them. If you're in a school and somebody is doing great, then you want to compete with them, correct? They may not be the highest, but they are doing better than you, correct? So but your main goal is Quran and Sirah, correct? Go there and compete with it. That's what Sahaba used to do that, correct? Sahaba used to look why I'm behind this person in doing good thing. They compete and they used to wait for the namaz. And each namaz, it was the highest standard they were doing because they knew that was the last namaz they are doing. Like today's Fajr prayer is my last Fajr prayer for today's. If you believe that concept, it changes your paradigm. It changes your paradigm because up till now we believe every day is free. We will get next tomorrow. But in real life, you see people dying on the spot. You will see people dying, your family member on the spot. The moment you realize, you will understand each prayer was the last prayer of the day for you. So that's a change in the paradigm thinking, correct? If I knew today is my last prayer, think about it. Next prayer you do, think that is the last prayer of your day, of your life. Change how much it will makes a difference on your prayer. Because once you understand that concept, and on the day of judgment, you say that Allah, I bring this prayer for you so I can go higher, you will have a higher prayer standard. That's my way of looking. You may have a different way of looking, but that's me, I think. Hopefully, I answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, guys, please
And
wait. Everybody raise their hand and I will call their name. Sundus is next. Sundus, you can unmute.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is regarding the classical conditioning and operant. So you might, since it's your expertise, you might know already about the social conditioning. Can you tell us a little bit about social conditioning, and does it have any impact on the conscious and subconscious? Like, how does it impact, or how does it work? Like, basically, I'm asking, what is social conditioning and what role does it play over here within this chart, if it does any?
Okay. Can you explain more to the crowd what you mean by social condition so everybody understand what you're asking the question?
So what I know, because it's just a superficial kind of definition that I know. That's why I'm asking you to define it first for us. What I know is that people to be conditioned to react or act in a certain way to any stimulus that is introduced to them. Am I right?
Yes, and there's a theories behind that, correct? It's a huge phenomena. You will go into psychiatry and the psychologian goes into that, correct? So
Yeah.
it does follows, it's you'll go to the core concept, correct? Is it related to reward or punishment, correct? Social condition, you get something out of it, correct? That's why you're going for social condition, because you get some pleasure out of it, correct? That's the core theme is, correct? Whether way you meet with friends or other thing, but your goal is reward and punishment. You're getting reward, that's why you're going towards that. That is operant conditioning, correct? Going in that direction. And then it comes to your akal and all those things and your thought process, the thought process which are talking about alternate thoughts, correct? The balancing thoughts, correct? So in the balancing thought you use the frontal lobe, where you do sijda, the brain behind that, just behind where the frontal lobe is, that is the executive decision making. By the way, do you know in Surah Alaq, which is a chapter 96, verses 15 and 16, Allah was talking to Abu Jahl. We will surely drag him by the forelock, lying and sinning in forelock. Correct? That's the exact translation. If I'm paraphrasing, maybe. So that is your thought processes. Your frontal lobe makes a thought process. Allah is talking in Surah Alaq. Correct? Why Allah is dragging the forelock? Correct? Because your thinking processes. You're lying and sinning and thought, right? So this is where you think, correct? You need to correct those thinking. So with the reward and punishment, you have to have the correct faith, correct? Means Islamic faith and have the understanding how socially react. You have to look at the Quran and the Sirah, correct? How Huzur Sallam used to live, how was his Sirah was, how Sahabas were living. So you auto-correct your reward and punishment phenomena. Like for instance, I give you example. Huzur used to eat after 3 days, correct? He used to, and he has dates in his pocket. And Hazrat Bilal Habshi used to, and he used to give dates to Bilal Habshi. Bilal Habshi hides the dates because he used to give dates to everybody who does not have food. And he does not used to eat. And Bilal Habshi used to hide the dates. So give back to Huzur so he can eat. This is the concept of Quran is and Sirah is. And what our concept, look at the iftari. This is our social concept. Look at how many food we have and what Huzur hasn't provided, the thinking and logic, correct? They used to go and fight with the Roman Empire. They were praying to Allah, I'm waiting for it, how I'm going to do it. Means one Sahaba was cut with one arm, he used the second arm, then that was cut, he used the other. He was making sure every inch of drop of blood is taken out. So I go higher level. This is called high self-esteem. And look at us, correct? So our social bonding is in a different direction. Islamic social bonding is totally different. Sira teach you that. We don't want to read about it because it affects our ego conflict. That why don't I have a big house, big car, big thing, big time, correct? So when we understand Huzur Sasam and the Sira, we autocorrect ourselves. Then the guilty conscience goes away. Where there are ego conflict will come and it will squash because we believe in our Iman and we believe in Huzur Sasam, correct? So that will help you autocorrect yourself. I hopefully answer your question.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so that is nice. Please unmute.
First of all,
I can barely hear you.
now you can hear me.
Yes, better.
First of all, I want to say that is very excellent presentation, giving us a lot of information. Jazakallahu khairan kaseera. And my question is that how can we control and tune our unconscious mind? Means it contains a lot of part of our thinking. So how can we put it on the righteous path if it is on the wrong path? Because it is very difficult to control our unconscious mind rather than to controlling our conscious one.
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked this question. We all suffer from that, correct? First, we have to identify what is our unconscious mind, correct? That's very important. Not knowing what is unconscious mind and what is sitting in your unconscious mind, your nerves is sitting there, which is a driving force, correct? So let's put it that way. Allah has given you 5-time opportunity every day in the namaz. When you connect and be quiet and take away the world and concentrate on Allah, and then have your time with yourself disconnecting, your nafs will come back to you and say, I have a project going on. It will cost that much money, or this is a pleasure thing. And this unconscious mind crawls back to you, correct? This is the time you capture it. When you spend time to yourself and calm yourself, unconscious mind will come up because it cannot sit quietly. We keep ourselves so busy that we don't get a chance to look at what unconscious mind is provoking us. But if you spend time on yourself in a quiet moment and spend your time, how you spent your time and how you're doing as compared to some pious person, unconscious mind will bother you. It's not going to sit quietly. Your nerves will bother you, correct? This is the time you capture it. Why my unconscious mind is bothering me. Then you look into your biases, fallacies, and cognitive dissonance. Nobody will tell you. This is where I'm telling you. You have to search and dig for your biases and fallacies. I cannot tell my bias. I can tell mine, but I cannot tell yours. Everybody has different. So you need to spend time to yourself, have a good prayers as it's your last prayer of that day, of that time, spend time on it. Once you do it, unconscious mind comes back with different thoughts and you capture it. You write it down or whatever you want to do so you can ponder on it. The more spend time, the more it will come. It will bother you. Trust me, it will bother you. You spend time in gossiping and all those things, it will bother you. Why? Why you're not gossiping or why you're not saying this. These are all your nuffs making wants to do it, correct? So that is very important for us to spend time on ourselves and fix those unconscious mind coming from it. Hopefully, I answer your question.
Yes, you have answered very well. Let me paraphrase it that at each and every second we have to put a check on our own self that whether we are working on the right path or whether our unconscious mind is dominating us or not. And it is not a permanent thing that once we have done it, so it will not disturb it. It will disturb it whenever we are not putting a check on our own self. Means we cannot fix it permanently.
You are perfectly right. You have to check and balances, correct? Means at all the check and balances of yesterday, you have to present to Allah, correct? It's not going to change, but it's there for you, correct? So if you autocorrect every moment of your life, you have a in a positive direction check and balances, correct? You have less to cover and you go higher level. That was Sahaba used to do it, right? They used to look into their own deeds. Are they doing good or bad? Autocorrect every moment of their life. And I'm telling you, time is a luxury here which we don't understand. This will be taken away from us. We use as a luxury. It's not a luxury given. And by the way, I made two mistakes in the previous presentation. Thanks for reminding me. And I apologize to Allah that I made the mistake. The first mistake I made was when I mentioned that Pharaoh has high self-esteem. Actually, Pharaoh has implicit egotism. Actually, has inflated self-esteem because he has narcissism. Anybody who has narcissism has inflated self-esteem. So as Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl has inflated self-esteem. I misspoke and said high self-esteem. So I apologize to all the listeners. That was mistake done, and may Allah forgive my shortcoming. Have I answered your question?
Yes, you have answered, and Jazakallahu khairan kaseera for answering my question.
Okay, Sister Mehreen.
My question is, I do not understand the rightmost part of this flow chart, where you are mentioning that classical conditioning and operant conditioning is related to akal. Can you please explain that? And the other question that I have is, once we move as we all know, we are so used to instant gratification, and then faith demand us to let go of instant gratification and do things that will make us successful in akhirah. So can a person have dopamine while he is trying to shift his paradigm to long-term gratification instead of instant gratification?
Okay, so let's do one at a time. Classical conditioning is unconscious response, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So you have an unconscious mind, you have an unconscious level of reaction. So I'm just telling you what are classical conditions set up in you. So there are a lot of behavior you can do unconsciously. So the psychiatrist has made how you do it. And I gave the example of it, that pairing of the door slamming with the chime, correct?
Mm.
That, so this is unconsciously. So there are a lot of behaviors you can do unconsciously. So at least you understand it's coming from classical conditioning, correct? So just as a knowledge base from the scientific, that's our classical condition. So when somebody says, why I react this way, then you understand it's from coming from my unconscious mind, classical conditioning, and that's why I did that. So then you correct it. If you cannot identify, how can you correct it? Correct? That was the reason why I explained it. The other one is operant conditioning. All right. Operant condition is very significant because it's a reward and punishment phenomena. Correct? We go for reward phenomena or we run away from punishment phenomena. So it does affects your akal because reward and punishment there's an influence of akal also, because you have a knowledge and then knowledge tells there's a reward or punishment, correct? So akal is trying to figure out, is it worth, like if I make interest or if I make a lot of money on this, that's whether it's a reward or that's a wrong source of income, correct? or it's a punishment. So akal get that information, correct? So as your thought process get those information, alternate thoughts. So these are the information or reward does affects your akal, and akal correct it, correct? Because reward and punishment is attached to your thinking process, correct? It's a thinking process. Because if you look at the reward pathway, from the neurocircuit is coming from VTA, ventral tegmental area of the brainstem, and it affects the nucleus accumbens, which is a reward pathway, reward center, correct? And the pathway is a dopamine, mesolimbic system, correct? The punishment is also a dopamine pathway, which is mesolimbic, affecting the other area, which is a punishment, amygdala, correct? So when you hit over there is a punishment. Both are dopamine pathways. And I sent you a video yesterday about that, why love changes to hate, hate changes to love, correct? And the effect of oxytocin, vasopressin, and steroids, I mean, norepinephrine effects on and how it affects you, correct? So both are the same dopamine pathway, but it's where it's get landed, which receptor it get landed. Did I
Okay,
explain this one?
yeah, let's take an example. Instead of so let's say, for example, whenever I start reading Quran, I start becoming sleepy, and I know that this situation is not right. I need to keep on studying Quran. I need to keep on taking this knowledge so that my ruh dominates my nafs, and then I develop a qalb salim. I don't know about this, but now the situation is whenever I'm opening the Sira book, I feel so bored that I feel like I'm sleeping. Now, how to navigate this problem into
Yes,
a solution where I
yes.
am motivating myself and disciplining myself that no, this 1 hour is entirely dedicated to studies.
Can you go to slide number 25? I'm glad you asked this question. 25. Yes. So see the motivation?
Mm-hmm.
This is your motivation, correct? Which is oxytocin is also involved as a final pathway, which also involve the dopamine, glutamate, and GABA, correct? This is a neurotransmission, causes motivation, correct? This is just a circuit, I'm just telling you. You have a motivation, which oxytocin does it, correct? Now, when you're reading the Quran, if you're not absorbing it or you're not, you have to develop motivation first. You know, when you do the motivation, you go further. If you are not motivated, it's lacking behind and you get distracted, correct? If an exam comes to you, you're motivated to pass or score highest, correct? It's a motivation factor. But if there's no motivation or least amount of motivation, your drive is less, correct? The goal of our is to encourage our motivation, correct? When you have motivation, you will go further and you will say, I have just 1 hour of this time period for today. Let me get more out of it. Because Sahaba used to do more, other people are doing more. So why I'm lacking behind? So I can prove to Allah I spend more time, valuable time, and Allah is proud. By the way, when we do all this thing, Allah is listening to you. Do you know right now this conversation which is happening? The
Yeah.
Malaika is taking your names and
Mm,
telling to Allah. Do you know that? When
yeah.
you read Quran and there's a discussion going on about Quran, Allah is listening and Allah asks the Malaika, who are there present? And the
Oh.
Malaika proudly tell this person by name. Allah knows that, but Allah wants to hear
Mm.
from that. Isn't
So
that a big motivation? The
yeah.
boss is talking about you at this
Mm,
moment. How much
indeed.
motivation you want? I don't care any president of the world talks about it. When my Allah is talking about me, correct?
Mm,
Isn't that a great motivation? That
yep.
that Allah knows that this person on the earth is trying to think about my book and wants to get better. And Malaika is proud to tell to Allah how much motivation you want. I don't need a Nobel Prize. This is better than, million times better than the Nobel Prize, correct?
Mm.
You have to develop motivation. And this is just a neural pathway. I just want to tell you. But you have to develop motivation. When you have motivation, drive is there for you, correct? Then the nafs, your nafs changes altogether. Then your nafs is going to that direction because it does not get impeded by that, correct? Your nafs will become nafs mutmainna because you're taking away biases, fallacy, cognitive dissonance. You have alternate thoughts, and the super or the rule concept is really shining on your qalb, correct? So you're
Mm.
going qalb salim concept, correct? Your qalb is looking for it. Means why you are here right now? Because you want to get better, correct? Why I'm here? So we all get better. Means I'm not higher than you. I'm just know the knowledge and I'm passing on to you, correct? And whatever you know, I learn from you. That's how it's working. So you need to work on motivation factor. Once you have that motivation factor, trust me, it will get better. And if you have an iman and you know your limitation, Sahaba used to do really good. Why? Because one thing they know, the life is going to end very quickly. They knew every second counts, every namaz count. So they used to strive for each namaz. They used to strive for every second because it is a luxury to have that time. They won't
Indeed.
have that luxury in the next world, and they will
Mm.
ask for that. So you need to understand from the Quranic concept, Allah is telling you, the time will be taken away from you and you
Mm.
will not given time. So you are the luxury of doing anything possible and you can do it because it's a test for you. And temptations are there and these are there. And that's why you are higher than the angels. Angels
Mm.
didn't want to come. Who took the oath in Alam Arwah? You took the oath. Who said that I'm going to follow the Quran? You said, we all said, correct? We were proud. And Allah know it was a difficult task, but we took the responsibility. So knowing that, we need to work on it to develop motivation and go for it. That was Sahaba used to do, correct? Hopefully I answer your question, the first one.
It's beautifully answered, and you have solved a massive puzzle in my mind. Jazakallah khairan kaseeran. May Allah reward you. I think we should take other people questions instead of taking my second question.
We have
Go to
a few more.
previous slides.
19.
Slide number 18 or 19.
Yes. Okay, brother Almas, you can ask the question.
And so we cannot hear you properly. Brother
Can you hear me
Ali?
now?
No, not really. We can barely hear you. Brother Ali, please take the mic.
Are you calling my name? Assalamu alaikum.
Yep, walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam.
Yeah, thank you so much for your efforts and time. So I want to bring all of this into a real life scenario, if you allow me to. I want to ask what exactly goes on into brain, and probably it might help me better understand it because I'm more of a, my brain kinds of understands when things goes in a less theoretical way. So I want to ask you about a situation, and you tell me what is exactly going on, and how can I see this or change this behavior. Certainly. For example, I was born. Is that okay?
Yeah, as long as in the paradigm of what we're talking, so it's fine.
All right. All right. Yes. So I'll try to make it short as short as possible. So, for example, I was born into a family who consider themselves as Muslims, but most of the time they just followed the Islam which we used to follow. They didn't go into the depths. They didn't understand all of these paradigm of souls and self-esteems. They just followed the
Bare
the
essential.
simple, yeah, the simple basic Islam that was taught, which is mostly like do your own thing and then you pray and then whatever else comes in else. So that has a profound impact on someone's self-esteem while growing up. And also you didn't get the right teachers in those fields, not right, asatizah, not Molvis, all of those people. So And on the other hand, there's this another philosophy coming up, which is the philosophy of the liberated self. I am who I am, acceptance, my mind, body, and ego ka jo connection hai, that is what matters most. You know, whatever West projects on us mostly when we talk about the mind, body, and soul ka jo connection hai. Are you getting my point?
Yes,
So this
I'm clear.
creates, all right, thank you. So this creates a very strong dissonance in people. And now we know that if you do that for like 10, 20, 30 years in your life, this is so embedded in your brain right now that even if you want to, even if there's a calling, even if that moral compass that Allah has built inside you, even if it calls you out, you see deaths, you see people dying in Palestine, you want to change things, you feel those things. But then the moment it comes back to you, the moment there's a possibility where you are supposed to sacrifice some part of yourself, you know, just to get up in the morning, it's a task, or start reading Quran, start understanding it. So there's this self which is bound in all these societal constructs, which, by the way, are mostly conscious and unconscious efforts of your parents, of your society, and yourself, again, to be blamed when you're above 18 or when you become an adult or good enough to understand all of these things. So my question, so I built all of this to come to my question. What is the antidote in this sort of scenarios? Because once we are bound by our social constructs, we tend to go to people and they are the same people. So we get all of the same answers. And the parent conditioning that we have, the parental structures that we grow up into, these are like far beyond the actual essence of Islam, the paradigm of soul and high self-esteem and your, you know, your identity as a Muslim.
So you asked a very good question. It's a very common question. I'm glad you asked this question because a lot of people are struggling. And trust me, there was time in my life I also struggled that. So I understand your concept, correct? We all struggle with that, especially if you are in the West. This is what happens, correct? There is so many things. First thing you need to understand, after you're 12, you're pretty much when you are adolescent and become young adult, you are taking responsibility, correct? You have the responsibility. Now you cannot blame your parent will get what they did, correct? They will get, but it stops after you become adult, correct? Now it's your deal. After 18, whether you're earning or not earning, it hurts you, correct? You're not going to blame your parent that I didn't get a job because you didn't send me to college or this or that, correct? You're taking that responsibly, correct? Yes or no? So that is the real life is that after we become adult, we take the responsibility financially, socially, and all those things. We have to take that responsibility. Once you understand to take responsibility, you have to look into this chart and see I have a cognitive dissonance going on, correct? You have identified that your education, your belief and behaviors are not on the same paradigm. So there is an ego conflict coming from there. I have biases fallacy. Now, when you have identified your cognitive dissonance with bias and fallacies, you want to fix it. When you want to fix it, you need to understand the concept of the Quran, correct? That what Qurans bring you to the table, correct? Because you want to have high self-esteem. You want to go from this world with high self-esteem, right? If life is taken away at this moment, you will be sorry, right? That hey, I was in the lowest self-esteem and I'm rest of my life, I will be at the means what are you gonna face with it. So you need to come out of it. I need to come out of this too. You know, I'm not talking about you, but in general, I'm talking about. We need to work on our own shortcomings, the ego conflicts, what we have ego conflicts. When we identify and then take responsibility of our own problem. Look at Arabia. During the Huzur time, people were the drinkers. They used to do all bad sort of things. It was the worst place where Islam could have come, correct? Allah selected the worst place and made the nation to the highest level. So how they were raised was erased by the thought process, right? You means you didn't got the luxury of the initial phase, correct? You didn't. Allah will, Allah knows that. Allah gave you, means Allah decide where you're born, correct? Allah means you didn't ask Allah to, I'm born with this parent. Allah decided you. And you just take it. So this is a challenge given to you. So after you become adult, you have to take that challenge, correct? Just like getting a job, that's a challenge. You accept it. So knowing your religion is a challenge, correct? And you need to accept that challenge because it increases your self-esteem, because that's the final outcome is your money will stop once you go under, correct? But your faith will last next life, correct? So you need to accept the challenge, and I'm glad you identify yourself where your shortcomings are, correct? You said that you have cognitive dissonance and as well as Bayesian fallacies. That keeps your nafs or the id going to nafse amara, correct? So you want to correct your nafs from nafse amara to nafse mutmainna, correct? In between is nafse lawama, correct? So when you do that, your fitra or your ruh will influence your qalb, which I call ego or your mind, makes a huge difference. So that will help you, but you need to concentrate and take responsibility. Allah has given you every time, correct? Right now you have time, you have an intention. That's why you are here in this presentation, correct? If you are not interested, you would not be in this presentation. So you want to strive to get better, correct? So let's work
But
on it. Go ahead.
yeah, so this all seems very paradoxical, to be honest. Once I understand, so all of this comes down to how much courage I have to understand what my God has told me to understand. Is that correct? How much
What
courage I put
courage?
in, the
Yeah,
courage
you
to
have.
put, yeah,
Yeah,
to
you
bring.
have to. Do you have courage to go to the workplace?
No, no, that's what I'm saying. So it all boils down to the, the calling that you have inside. That
Yes.
maybe we're shifting to a more philosophical sense of this question, but so what I see is, for example, if someone this doesn't have this all base, so
To
can
develop
you
that.
not?
So
Yeah, I mean,
yes, that's a good question, by the way. Yes, if you don't have, you need to spend time on yourself. Why you're not developing it? Because Allah has given you fitrah, correct? You agree on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So where's that? It's not in the earth, it's in you, correct? That is
So
shining for you, sitting in you, but it is lost in your 900 somewhere. It's not being collected. So the root concept, which is
all right.
affecting your qalb, is not influencing your qalb, which is in your mind, the ego conflicts and all those things, correct? So you need to bring out that, shine that root concept, correct? So with the akal and with the hikmat, you make your qalb stronger, correct? When you make a qalb stronger with the influence of the ruh, the nafs has less input on you, correct? And the nafs will go to nafs mutmainna, correct? It's a huge process. It's not going to help in one day, correct? It's a process. People have high faith and go slow faith is phase wise, correct? So I'm not expecting you going to go from one day to another and you become. It is a process. But if you go on the right process, Allah wants you that, correct? On the day of judgment, Allah, on the day when the soul is taken out, we all wants to be on the right pathway, correct? So we need to work on it. We not to be on the wrong side when the angel of death comes, which we don't know which time they come. By the way, angel of death visits pretty much every day to you, correct? Your soul is taken out, correct? You know that.
Mhm.
When you go to sleep, a portion of your soul is taken out. When you wake up, you should say thanks to Allah that Allah has given back again my life, correct? How close you were to death. Have you realized that? Every day you are going through that. And we don't think about it. So think about it. Some days the soul is not coming back. So we have to
All
work
right.
on it. It's a huge process. Hopefully, I
Hmm.
answer your question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for the most part, yes, you did, but there's still a couple of things which doesn't. I'm not. I won't take more time. If someone else has to ask any questions, they can go
But
ahead.
please review the previous sessions so it will help you too.
I will. I will for sure. Thank you. Thank you for
You're
your
most welcome.
Okay, brother Almas. Your
Hello,
call.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Yes, I want to ask question. Like I've come across different kind of people, like the people who are following Islam, and if I identify them as inflated high esteem, and I have some conversation with them, and I just wanted to tell them this is wrong, this is right, and they're not coming into it. And I was just listening to one of person who's also a psychologist. He was saying that if a person is narcissistic, don't tell him that he's narcissistic. So if I'm preaching someone and if I identify that he or she is having the high inflated self-esteem, how can I navigate through it? Like, can you help me in dealing with it? And another type of person is like, I'm feeling here, almost all the people are here atheist, and I have a very much interaction with them, and I always come into my mind that I should tell them that there is God. So whenever I want to tell them, they just say me, oh no, we don't have any interest in religion. But they are very kind, they are very, like, their morals and their ethics are so much good. It is like, if I compare with those people who have the high inflated self-esteem, and they're like, I came across them with some sort of conversations, so I feel more them towards and inclined towards those people whose morals are good, but they are not coming in towards like uh, accepting God. So I'm just confused what kind of people are around me. So how can I deal with these two kind of people? Just can you help me in regarding this?
Okay, that's a good question, and let me try to answer that question. Sorry about that. So people with inflated self-esteem, if you go to psychology concept, they're not going to accept because of their issues. You know, they have low self-esteem. Their ego is very fragile, so they are fixing on that. Correct. So the best example will be Huzur Sallam, the Sirah. Correct. That
Yeah.
will be the best example. Huzur Sallam used to teach to everybody. Correct. People with inflated self-esteem, people. Correct. But
Yeah.
Huzur System used to guide them. This is the right pathway, but not enforce them. Correct?
Yeah.
That was his teaching. Huzur System used to be the best example for them. If they want to learn, they can learn from them. And Huzur System used to cry when they never used to learn. And Allah said, that's not your job. Do you remember that? That's also mentioned in Quran. Your job is to just preach them.
Yeah,
It's not your
it is the
responsibility
hidayah.
if they don't change it.
Yeah, hidayah comes from Allah. Yeah.
So you work on yourself, tell them, but don't tell you have this and that. Then of course they will go into their own castle, because that's a behavior mechanism. You call them this and they will say, who are you to tell me? Are you a psychiatrist, psychologist? Correct? You don't tell them. You show the best what Islam can provide. So when Huzur Sassam used to go to the Jews and the Christian, he never used to put their faith down. Correct? He used to tell what is the correct faith, and this is what I am offering. Correct? That's what Quran is, and you're going to means he doesn't want to impose on them. You know, this is I'm giving it to you and telling you you're not in a right direction, but if you want to follow it, that's your choice. You're aware of it. So work on yourself. They will come to you. And if they're not coming, you have done your job, correct? Like I'm doing the presentation. Then people who don't want to come, it's not my concern. I did my job. That's what I will say to Allah on the day of judgment, correct?
Yeah.
That's not my responsibility. The whole world should listen to me. I did my job telling to people. Now, they don't want to listen. I did my job because Allah will ask me, you have that knowledge. Did you pass on? And I will be the most sorry person in the world if I say I didn't. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
But if I pass on, I'm done. I will take all the good deed, and this is between me and Allah. I don't want deed from you. I'm just telling you. Means this is the relation between me and Allah, correct? I'm doing with Allah intention, correct? So you do the best thing you can, and don't worry about it. Be yourself. That will be my answer to your question.
Okay, so we are only responsible for ourselves, but when we are preaching to others, so that we couldn't have any map so that we can follow to preach others.
So the map,
Like in a way of psychologically, we can help them, if so.
so you are the shining guideline for them, correct? They will be prone to you, coming to you if you are a shining guideline, correct? And then you tell what is good and what is bad, correct? That's all you can do. You can enforce somebody else. They have to respect their own, because everybody has their own thinking, correct? And let them come, because they have to accept iman from their own self, correct? You cannot force them to accept iman, correct? You can tell all the good thing, tell them all the bad thing, what's happening, but it's up to them. That is my way of thinking. I may be wrong. May Allah forgive me.
Okay, in Quran, Allah has said that this hidayah only comes from Allah. So this is the point where the hidayah comes only from Allah.
Hidayat, always everything comes from Allah, correct? But Allah
So
also say
what is in our hands if we are learning
you have
psychology
to,
and all
okay.
these kind of things? We are only working in on ourselves. How we can work on the other people as well if we have this knowledge?
So Hidayat always comes from Allah, but we also have to work also, correct? If
Yes.
we don't work, Allah will not give you Hidayat, correct? Like example of Jang-e Uhud, correct? Huzur Sallam prayed for it, Sahaba prayed for it. What happened in Jang-e Uhud? We didn't follow,
Yeah.
correct? So we have to do our job too. Allah will help you if you do your job. Allah changed the destiny of a nation who wants to change it. Correct? I'm
Yes.
paraphrasing from the Quran, correct? Why the
Yes.
Muslim Ummah is sinking? Because they don't want to do it. So how will the Hidayah will come? We don't do the things and look for other people for the shortcoming. We don't fix our own problems. Hopefully I answer your question. But you need to tell good things about it. It's your responsibility to that. Allah says that. You need to correct yourself and tell all the good things, correct? You have to preach other people, correct? But you have to do, it has a limitation also. You cannot force it.
So the people who are saying that they are atheists, they don't believe in God, but in nature, Allah has settled in their nature that they should believe in God. So what is the point they're missing? I'm just confusing in these things so that I can help them.
Uh, okay, so everybody has fitra, correct?
Yes.
So everybody is born with a fitra. That's from our belief, and that's what happened, correct? They also are there. So they have the imprinting of Allah's fitra, correct? Now, if they decided not to follow because they're following their nafs to nafse amara and enjoying it, and they don't want to give up, then all you can do is tell what's good and bad, and it's up to them to decide. If they move forward in a right direction, it's good. If they don't, then they're responsible for the action. You cannot force them, correct? They can take shahada based on their intention, not your intention, correct? Allah will accept their intention. If they take intention because you said so, that's not right. They have to believe in what they say. Means you did shahada because you believe in it, not what your parents believe it. You're following Islam because you are doing it, not what your parent told you. Parents are done by when you are 18, correct? Now it's you,
Yes.
and so that's it. But that's my thought. I may be wrong, but that's the best I can answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we have one last question with Sister Saleha, if you can ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So my question is not regarding the today's presentation, but that's regarding the article you have shared before on that was related to qalb. So like whenever
Sorry, your voice got disconnected.
We can't hear you.
whenever we study that concept of
Okay,
qalb,
can you
we
repeat
take it.
again? You got disconnected.
Okay, that my question is regarding qalb. Like the article you have shared and a lot of other people, they translate qalb as the thinking power or the overall cognitive thinking and all those things, but in Arabic the word qalb translates as heart, and heart is the pumping organ, so we don't find any sort of thinking ability with the heart. But whenever I read this concept of qalb, we or the heart, I have this thing in my mind that there in Quran nothing can be metaphorical, right? So like for example the concept of embryology, when until it wasn't discovered, the Quranic scholars used to take that at metaphorical, or the movement of mountains that has been explained in Quran. So is it this thing that we are still not that much discovered about that much about heart, so we take it as metaphorical and just the thinking ability that a person has, and take the qalb in that in this context?
You asked a very good question. I really appreciate. Okay, so let me correct it. Okay, and this is how it goes. You have language, you have science, and you have faith, correct? Now, all three can say something, but does not means all are the same. Learn by heart. I say, okay, learn this thing by heart. So does the heart learns the thing? It's a metaphorically used, correct? We all know that. Heart does not learn the thing. There's a metaphor. There's a learning, you love from the heart and all those things, correct? It's a metaphor. So it's a language metaphor, correct? Now, Arabic, the classical Arabic of Fusa has lot of metaphors, correct? The problem comes, the person who translate, in my opinion, did not do the what I think's the best, correct? So if you look at the Fusa or classical Arabic, the word qalb means something that understand, something is in the center, or something that moves. That's the meaning. Now think about that. That's the exact meaning of qalb in classical Arabic or Fusaris. Now somebody thought in their time that that relates to heart, right? And that's became the concept of everybody puts in the heart over there. But ideally, it should be written qalb or written what the exact meaning from the Fusha is. Correct? We now need to go to the real source, not somebody because this become confirmation bias. Whoever translate thought that is heart, so we are following that. Right? That is not fair. Allah is saying qalb. Qalb means center, something that moves or has understanding. So it should be kept the same way. Now, moving forward, if you look at the paradigm of science, psychology, and everything, what makes sense is your mind, not your heart. And that is, I explain in detail where the issue comes, because you have a ego conflicts. Where it's happening? It's in your mind. Where your nerves are, is in the mind, correct? What about the Ru? Ru is something we don't know much about it. But as I mentioned in the previous presentation, if you look at the concept of superego, which is given by the Freud, it's not the perfect one. But if you assume superego is the highest moral value given by Allah, if you use that concept, it makes a lot of sense. So psychiatry is not perfect. It has flaws in it, but you have to alter and change based on your religion, and does it make sense? So when you correlate superego with Ruh, with the concept, the highest moral value Allah has given to you, as rather than your parents giving it, so it has to be Allah, then you understand the ego conflicts happening, because now your superego is fighting with the id, and the ego has to resolve it, and then you have an ego conflict, correct? Now, ego conflict, then it is in the unconscious mind, correct? Then you have biases, fallacies, and cognitive dissonance, correct? All these things affect, correct? So you need to fix all those things, and you have to have understanding. And that's what I believe. And actually, if you look at it, like for instance, people who says the heart is the center, I only ask them, that if the brain dies, does the heart stay alive? None of the physician will tell you it will stay alive. It will die. That's why it's called brain dead. This is the official definition by all of us physicians, doctors, and all over the world since 1981. So you look at the 5 symptoms from the brainstem. When they stop working, your heart will stop. It's just a matter of time. But now, if your heart dies, like for instance, cardiac arrest, but if the brain is functioning, you give them shock. Why? Because you exactly know the brain is working, so it will come back. But when the brain dies, you exactly know it's not going to revive. That's why we leave it alone. So we look at the 5 symptoms. There is exception to those 5 symptoms. I'm not going to go into medical phenomena, correct? So we believe, and that's my concept, that the ego is your qalb, or it's in your mind. In fact, if you look at Maulana Maududi, Tafsir al-Quran, he explained in detail. When he mentioned the concept of dil, he also mentioned it's the ego and it's in the mind. He has mentioned in Tafimul Quran also. You can read it, it's written there. And there are so many other scholars who have, Zakir Naik talks a lot about it. He's a physician in India, correct? He talks about in detail about that. There are other physicians who talk about it. So it's not like, even Imam Ghazali, take him. He used to, it means thousands years ago, correct? He was a big scholar at that time. He used to call spiritual heart. He never called structural heart. So we have all this idea that this qalb is in your mind, this is the ego. And it makes so much sense when you look at this paradigm, which I've drawn it. It makes sense. But if you put qalb as heart, there's a problem. Because then does the heart have a thinking process? Does the heart has memory system? Correct? Where is the memory cells are? How memory is formed? We exactly know how memory is formed in the brain. Can anybody explain how memory is formed in the heart? Means stepwise. I don't want memories formed. Give me which cell, how the process takes place. Don't give me hypothesis that goes to the heart and memory is formed. We don't do that in scientific terminology. We do neuropsych testing. For instance, in Alzheimer's disease, which is a memory problem, correct? If the
Doctor, can I
brain
hold
has, go ahead.
can I hold you there for a second?
Sure.
Yeah. So when you say the heart doesn't learn, but recently we have the science has proven that the heart has its own neural pathways with own neurons and connections. So whatever your learning also happens through heart. So is that something which is yet not proven?
Okay. So let me answer. There's a book available. I review that also, and I look at the things also. Each cell has some memory in the DNA. When the DNA will die, it is programmed. It has some memory system there, but it is not as big as the heart is, or as big as the brain is. Each cell has an autolysis system. Each cell is designed by Allah that it will die that time. So it has a memory system. How it will die, you have to have a memory, correct? Your telomerase, the chromatins and all those things, the chromosomes has to grow back, correct? But it also has a system when you will stop doing it. So that is in the memory system, correct? It is a very minute memory, correct? As compared to the brain, correct? So give you example, and this is why it is that somebody who has memory problem like Alzheimer, I have done research on it, I've published papers on it, correct? So if somebody has a memory problem, then they should not have, and they're very healthy, then what about their heart issue? Heart has a memory, if you're saying, and it's the most controlling one, why they cannot do things, correct?
No, I mean, we're not talking about the complete change of the entire process. I'm just telling you that when we hear a beautiful recitation, it doesn't
Correct.
impact our brain. What does it?
It impacts
It
your brain.
impacts our heart.
No.
It
Okay, I'll explain. That's a good one. So
yeah,
how the system works? You hear the sound, correct? Recitation,
yeah.
correct? Where it goes from there?
It goes to brain
Vestibulocochlear
for
nerve, eighth
processing.
cranial nerve. Are you physician?
No, I'm not.
Okay, sure. Okay, that's fine. So I will guide you then. Sorry about that. I didn't want to expose you. So when you hear the sound, correct? It goes to eighth cranial nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve, correct? That's a hearing
Okay.
sound, cranial nerve, correct? Where it goes? There's a
To
sensory
the
area, to the
yeah.
thalamus, correct? From the thalamus, where it goes? It So thalamus has to decide what to do now. It's a main area where it's the decision making. The heart has not heard any sound yet. Does the heart has a hearing? No, heart does not hear. Correct? It's still in the thalamus. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
When you recite, the heart is hearing. No, heart does not has a hearing power. Your ear has a hearing power. Correct? Ear goes, vestibulocochlear goes to thalamus. From the thalamus and the basal ganglia decide what to do with this sound. Is it a preference? Is it a good one? It's the time to spend on it because you got thousands of input right now in the thalamus at this second, correct? It has to decide. It sends impulse back to the frontal lobe and the limbic area, right? Limbic area is autonomic response. From the limbic areas go to hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is the main center of autonomic nervous system. That is sent down to the vagus nerve to the heart. So now your
Yeah.
heart is connected by SA node to the vagus. So autonomic nervous system is completely feeding your heart, right? And you have a response coming back. So you feel it. Do you get my point? Now explain the other way. If you say heart has effect, explain the pathway from the heart. You have a brain pathway I explained to you, correct? In a layman term, correct? Now, if you say heart hears it, tell me the pathway. It does not have a pathway.
I understand it completely. So when Allah tells us we have हमने उनके दिलों पे मोहर लगा दी, stamp their
Okay,
hearts.
let me recorrect you. Dil, there's no dil. There's kalb.
Kalb.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Go
we
ahead.
have stamped their kalbs. So
Correct.
is it like we were talking about some part of brain which doesn't give access to the kalb?
Yes, they're talking about the mind. Because here, if your mind is totally blocked, it has no effect because this is the center point. What is kalb? That's what I'm trying to explain. Kalb is something which is in the center that has understanding. So when somebody put the first step as a wrong step, we go in the wrong direction. The whole building is wrong now. And I'm correcting that. Please keep kalb as kalb. If you keep kalb as kalb, it's correct. But if you change, this is called confirmation bias. Somebody thought is kalb, they put kalb. Now everybody think about structural heart. But if I say, why don't you keep the translation of kalb as kalb? Because that's a metaphor use and, learn by heart. Do you think you learn by heart?
No, you learn through your brain.
Exactly. You love from your heart, bottom of the heart. Do you?
I mean, whenever
That's
there's
a
a heartbreak, I do feel it in my chest.
Yes, that is a reaction response to your heart because heart is pumping. It's under the control of your brain. When a person is brain dead, the heart dies. You cannot do the other way around. So if the brain is dead, the heart will die. But if the heart, later on it will die. It's just a matter of time. So you have to understand that. So if the brain is alive and you have a cardiac arrest and no beats, we shock you, correct?
Yeah.
Why we do it? Because you are not having any pulse for a minute or two. You're pretty much dead. By your definition, the heart is dead. So that's the central, correct? It does not flies because that's a wrong concept. So this is where the confirmation bias is that somebody put heart as kalb. Now we always think of structural heart. If we correct from the Quranic definition as kalb, or go to the Fussa or classical Arabic, what it means. Go to the source. Don't go to somebody who is translated wrong or translated based on what they're thinking, correct? They may be right. I'm not saying I'm the final authority. Allah knows the best, correct? but we know that is what the Fussa says, something in the center that moves or has understanding. So the concept of understanding comes, you should have a memory system. Without memory, you cannot have understanding, correct?
So we're looking at something which is in between your mind and your heart.
Which is that organ then? Now you're going to hypothetical situation. I don't know. Correct?
I mean,
you have to pick one thing. Don't go in somewhere where it does not exist, correct? You have to be one thing. Yeah, Muslim or non-Muslim. Don't say in the middle. Correct?
Is there anything with emotional intelligence attached with your heart?
As I mentioned to you, all the emotion, the whole 9 yard of emotion lies in the brain. Heart is a recipient of receiving the impulse. If somebody prick you, you move your hand, correct? Same thing goes with the heart. Heart is an organ of blood supply. It has other endocrine functions too, but it is a very solid organ for a. Do you know there's a second heart too? In medicine, we have called a second heart too. So now you're going to say the second heart is also the oracle? It's the second heart. The calf muscle is called the second heart in medical terminology. So we go around and around, correct? So let's go to the core meaning, core understanding of the classical Arabic or the Fussa, Al-Fussa. And
So
Al-Fussa says,
why the heart is very important in Sufism? When they just tell you about any zikr, any kind of thing, they just tell you focus on your heart. Sufism and
I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm just telling what I know. If they want to do it, it's your life. But make
because they,
comments.
according to Sufis, they have traveled these paths of souls and all these
Do you
kind of
want to
things.
follow Sufi than yourself?
Pardon?
You want to follow Sufi rather than your intellect?
And no, I don't want to follow. I'm just searching, researching what kind of things exist in this world so that I can.
Okay.
Um,
So the best way to do is have your own knowledge, correct? And then decide what is good for you, correct? Means I had a knowledge and I decided what to do, correct? Nobody Sufi came to me and say, hey, say to this thing. I decided myself. You decide by yourself. Have knowledge, have akal, and hikmat will help you. Be yourself, right? You are accountable for yourself because on the day of judgment, you are accountable for your own action. Shaitan will say, I just misguided them. They are the one who did that. I'm not saying the Sufi is misguiding them, but I'm just telling you, Quran says that upfront. Shaitan will not take your responsibility of your actions. We have to take responsibility. So what is the responsibility? Know your subject well, correct? Know everything, and then do the best you can. That is my suggestion, but I may be wrong. Wallahu alam. Allah knows the best.
okay.
Okay, I think we've had a great discussion. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Najeeb, for such an insightful session. Before we wrap up, would you like to share any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate for Allah for giving the blessing to present to you and whoever didn't attend. May Allah have blessings so they can attend and learn from it. And Allah knows the best. Wallahu alam. If I have done any mistakes, I ask for forgiveness from Allah, and we will continue and go from there. Thank you very much for coming. Jazakallah.